Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Weekly Wind-Up on Kirklees Local TV. My name's Helen Ashcroft. This week we're tackling a subject which to some of you may be quite controversial. It is that of working beyond retirement age. Now, some people count the days to retirement from the mid-30s and cannot be seen for dust once that day arrives. Others, on the other hand, observe it coming with dread and indeed, if they can, continue to work whilst they are ever fit enough to do so. So who's right? On one hand, holding on to a job may be depriving a young person of the opportunity to gain skills and money at a time in their life when it's most needed. But on the other hand, it can keep older people feeling useful, keeping up their exercise whilst doing their job and contributing to the economy with taxes rather than being a drain on it, claiming the state pension. So what do the people of Huddersfield have to say about this?
The way I see it, if they want to do it, then by all means let them work. But if they've come out of retirement to kind of rest and relax and maybe tick some things off the bucket list that they couldn't do while they were working, then I'd say leave them to it. A lot of jobs, a lot of companies will actually take on young people, whether it's because of a certain thing, maybe they don't have a set requirement, or they ask for experience for how many amount of years, but how are they going to have the experience if they've been in school and they've been in education? When they try to find a job, then it's going to be a bit hard for them.
I think it's up to them. I think it's their choice. I don't think anyone should tell them any different, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's also kind of known that older people like to stick to what they know rather than, just changing. So I think it's their choice, really. I suppose it would be a better thing for a younger person to get that job, but obviously we can't go to them. You need to leave. Do you know what I mean? We can't just tell them you need to stop and quit. So, yeah. No, probably not. I think I'd get to that retirement age and I would stop, but I would try and get a smaller job to keep me going rather than just, quitting completely, keep on.
I'm not really fussed. I mean, to be fair, the people who are older seem to have more experience than the younger people nowadays because the younger people aren't willing to learn. So if it means that the older people get the job done better than the younger people, then I'm all for it. I would like to quit and maybe travel, but I could take a smaller job on, you know what I mean? Maybe working at an animal shelter or something like that. It'd be good, just to sort of keep me entertained.
I mean, why should you be working 50, 60 years just to make a living in Britain and then have to work after retirement? Then you don't have any life after retirement. You can't enjoy your middle age, old age, and then you could just drop down dead and have no enjoyment of your pension money or anything. I think it's very, very wrong. In fact, I think they should bring down the retirement age to 55 or 54. And my sister's been in nursing all her life. She's a dedicated nurse, works she works all sorts of hours. She even works in a home at the weekends to pay a mortgage and that. And she's sick of it. And they should create more jobs and let young people have the jobs. And rich people should share their money. So retirement age over the retirement age, it's a load of old codswallop. I don't agree with it.
Well, I think it's down to the individual if they're motivated to do that or if it's a necessity. If they can't manage without that income, then it can't be argued with. Well, yes, I have, but I've gone back to work since in a full-time capacity for a year, and then I now do selective invigilating at a college. So I certainly wouldn't want to do it all year round.
Quite interesting and quite a variance of opinions there. One person who's actually willing to admit that he's over 70 and still working is our very own co-presenter on Kirklees TV, and that's Dave Hodgson. Hello.
Hi, thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I often wanted to say that.
Have you? Well, there you go. Today's the day. So, a gentleman over 70. Am I able to ask?
Of course.
Go on then, how old?
My age is 72 3/4.
Wow, well, you do look well on it. You do.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, at what age did you start working?
If you take work experience, which wasn't like it is now, just to make money for the family, I started at 14 when during the school holidays I went into the local woolen mill and worked in what used to be called wooliole, which is a blending of wool that goes in down to a machine, and then that blends it all together and it goes out to weave whatever it is, which in our case was carpets in Heckmondwike.
Now, I mean, at 14, you perhaps didn't think about the age of retirement.
Not even crossed my mind.
But then as your career progressed, what age did you think you'd be working till?
I expected to have to work until I was 65, I must admit.
Right.
But it didn't happen.
Okay, so the big question is, why didn't it happen?
Why didn't it happen? It was at a time I'd left the BBC then, and I'd started to work in a press office when they reopened the Alhambra, because they wanted somebody who'd been used to showbiz things like that. So I took up some work with them, and let's say I worked at that for a while, and then there was this big thing that councils had to shed employees as quickly as they could, and it didn't matter how. Now this would never happen again, but it was almost like they were posting £10 notes through my letterbox just to say, will you retire please? This was when I was 52, and I thought, why not? Because this thing called local TV had started to happen. Let's have a go at that. And I don't have to mind, I've got my pension, the council have made my pension up, I'm all right. Why not? So I did.
Right.
Then I unretired for the first time.
However large or small your business, attracting new customers requires dedication and a lot of patience. Just like fishing, but you also need the right gear. Rods,
reels, lines, hooks, sinkers, lures, tackle box, tackle bag, net, bait, gas gloves, clothes, pocket knife, wrench.
Or you could simply advertise with KLTV. Online, grow your business and your clientele. KLTV, your vision made reality. Should have gone to KLTV.
So, I mean, one of the comments from one of the people that were being interviewed was very similar to yourself, the fact that he'd retired and then he'd actually gone back and done some work. So is that seeming to be the norm within people slightly older?
I think it's becoming so. I don't think it's in the majority at the moment, but I do think that's the sort of thing that's coming. Because as an older person, I can be more flexible. I don't, you know, if I don't work for a few days, it does not matter. And to be frank, absolutely frank, most of it is pocket money, because I've got enough on my pension, as it were. Not everybody's that.
Well, then in that case, if you're doing it just for pocket money, you are potentially taking the role or the job of somebody, a young person, as I said at the start of the interview, that would benefit from the monetary side of it.
It is possible.
Wouldn't you consider then volunteering?
Yes, I could do that. On the other hand, when I de-retired for the third time, the job could not be done by a younger person because it was invigilating exams for the Open University and Leeds University in those days. So it has to be somebody who they can pick up and put down as they want.
So if you have been in employment and then you come out of employment and then you go back into employment, are you reliable?
Yes, because I only take up the employment when I'm asked to do it. I don't go seeking work.
Right.
It seeks me.
Okay.
And of course, with my background of being a lecturer in media at Trinity and All Saints College, which of course isn't called that anymore, they were interested in using me because I was used to an academic establishment.
So what is the biggest selling point for an employer to take on somebody that's been in full-time work and then retired and wants to come back into employment?
Two things. One is if it's on the same line as you've been done, it's
Yes.
experience that can be passed down to younger people without having to pay for it other than the wage.
Yes.
Right. And the other is the convenience of, like, older people like me don't bother about 0-hour contracts because I
Right.
don't work. It doesn't matter.
A younger person that's fresh out of college, they're coming with up-to-date ideas, and they know that the way that people run things generally in businesses. So aren't they at an advantage compared to yourself because they're up to date with the skills?
It depends. They might be up to date with the skills, but they might not be up to date with their personal approach to the job.
Right.
One thing that's always worried me about universities, it teaches people to be very good at what they are, but it's very bad at teaching them about life.
Right.
And you tend to find sometimes, not all, but there is a minority of people who just come off students, they know it, you know,
Yes.
so there's nothing else to do.
Now I know you don't mind admitting that you've got a health problem.
I don't mind at all.
How does that fit around your work?
Even since I've been working here at KLTV, which is coming up, well, certainly 2.5 years, coming up for 3 years, I've had to slightly alter my job so that it's less strenuous because I do have a heart valve problem.
Okay.
But it doesn't stop me, and I'm not going to sit at home and gently fade into being an invalid. You know what I mean? I'm quite happy working, I can work, but I've got to be just a little bit careful.
So how long can you envisage yourself working then, until, at what point?
Fall on the job.
So you like the job so much that you seriously would carry
Go
on
out on my
working?
shield.
Well, that's really interesting. Thank you ever so much.
My
Thank you ever
pleasure.
so much for the time that you've taken to have a chat with me. Okay, so are you like our very own Dave, or can you just not wait to put work behind you and never think of it again? Please contact us on the usual means, and we will be with you next week at the same time. So from me, Helen Ashcroft, take care of yourselves and stay tuned in to KLTV.